Again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out to join us this morning for what I'm hoping will be a very, very insightful session on the topic of HR document management by PXMsoft. This morning's session, Unlocking Efficiency, Simplifying HR Document Management in the Digital Age. Delighted to be joined by two of my colleagues, Atulia Kuplas, who's been responsible for facilitating this morning's session, and also a subject matter expert, Anne Christensen. Anne is also the product owner for PXMsoft HR document management. Just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. This morning's session will be recorded, and we're happy to share the recording with anyone who'd like a copy of it. Also, we try to make these sessions as interactive and as engaging as possible. You'll notice on your screen that there's a Q&A tab, so please feel free to submit any questions you may have as we go through this morning's session. And on that note, we're just going to kick things off. Just a high-level overview of what we'll cover this morning. I'll talk a little bit about this PXMsoft and what it is and how it's, I suppose, been a new addition basically to the Gavdi portfolio. Also, then I'm going to hand it over to Anne, who'll talk a little bit about PXM document management. We'll do a product demonstration. For those of you who are using the product currently, we'll also do, we'll do an update basically on the latest release. And I suppose, as mentioned at the beginning of the call, we'll also facilitate a Q&A session. So on that note, what is PXMsoft? Well, PXMsoft is a relatively new service line to Gavdi Group. We really went to market, I suppose, with this new service line about 18 months ago. Fair to say a lot of this was driven by customer demand, in the sense a lot of our existing customers and new customers identified and had frustrations around gaps, let's say, within SAP SuccessFactors. And in trying to bridge these gaps, we started to develop our own IP. We have an innovative arm within Gavdi called Gavdi Labs. Basically, they started to develop products, I suppose, to address these gaps. And subsequently, I suppose, throughout the last 6 to 9 months, we now really do have quite a significant portfolio of products, all built on SAP BTP, but all built, I suppose, to, as I said before, to firstly, I suppose, to give customers an opportunity to really see an investment on their SAP SuccessFactors solution, but also to, I suppose, bridge those gaps in the sense of provide solutions that SAP SuccessFactors doesn't do currently, all of which are very commercially attractive and very, very robust solutions. At the moment, we have 5 solutions. One of them is Attract and Hire, and it's basically everything to do around recruitment. The second one, and I won't say too much about it, is document management. You'll hear a lot more about that this morning from Anne. We're also going to market with a new product called Time Tracking Plus, based on SAP SuccessFactors time management, because I suppose we've seen a significant demand for time tracking due to ongoing EU regulations and so forth. We also have a skills management tool called Certify and Comply. Again, very much around ensuring that your employees are compliant in what they do on a daily basis. And finally, we have a solution called Org Chart and Modeling, very much developed around, I suppose, being able to have full visibility on your organizational structure, but also be able to model your structure in the sense that if you're looking to make some internal restructuring, you can model, share, and so forth. At the moment, 3 of these are available on the SAP store. We envisage that they all will be over the next 6 months. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the other solutions that we're not going to, I suppose, delve into too much, they're all available to see on the PXMsoft website. And on that note, I'm delighted to be joined this morning by my colleague Anne. Anne is sitting in global headquarters in Copenhagen this morning. I might just ask Anne maybe to firstly say good morning to everyone, but also maybe give a quick introduction about who she is and what she does within Gavdi. Thank you. Morning, Anne.
Good morning. Thanks, John. So, hi everyone. My name is Anne, and I've been with Gavdi for almost 5 years soon. Started within the people analytics area within SuccessFactors, but moved into the product lines not long ago to build these great applications. So, I'm the product owner for the part that does the document management solution, and have done a lot of these implementations on a global scale already. So have a lot of experience in the area. And Ophelia, if you take the next slide, I'll give you a quick introduction to what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start the demo in a little while, where I'm going to show you how to create documents, contracts, addendums, agreements, and in every kind, how they are signed with different workflows, could be approvals, could be signature, and then ultimately they arrive in the archive at the very end, where we can find and search and source all kinds of documents, upload afterwards as well. So a little bit on the architecture here is that we latch onto your SuccessFactors environments. We set up what we call trust, and from there we connect to the BTP that hosts the sub-account for the application. And that has the entry board to the dashboard of document management applications or other applications for PXM. And in BTP, we also connect to different integrations. So that could be any third-party applications, payroll, ServiceNow, of that kind. And we also connect to storage, for an example, Microsoft Azure, which is where the document sits on the database, but are presented in the archive. Then we also have the ability to connect to any of signature providers. We have a preferred vendor called Scrive, which we develop the solution with, and where we can send documents for signature in between creation and archiving. So that's a little bit on the architecture. And Ophelia, if you take the next slide, what we'll see is this little line of actions. So as I mentioned, we'll start with the access. So you'll see how we end up in the dashboard, how that's controlled, different points of access from the SuccessFactors application. I'll take you through a document creation templates, how they're built, what's the logic. I'll explain the workflow in terms of approvals and signatures, but also the attachments and notifications we can add on to the workflow. Approval, signature, status, and the archive. So I will also show you what the archive looks like, what it consists of, and what is the requirements you can give in terms of designing your own archive. I'll also touch upon the admin section and the metrics, so a little bit on the back end that doesn't involve the daily user, you can say. So I'll take the screen from you, Ottilia, and share with you. And once we're done with this demo, we're going to fly back and I'm going to give you a quick intro to what has been done in the release and how we develop this product, you'll see. So I'm on the front page of our demo environment, so that's SuccessFactors demo environment. And from here, I have multiple ways into the applications. So I have from the top navigation, the document management dashboard I can open from here. You can also see that from the quick actions, I have the self-service button where employees can go to visit their own archive, or managers can go in and visit their direct reports archive. The same action button here, but for a wider access board. So if we have access to the full dashboard where we can track the workflows, also go and generate documents. I could also put it here on the action search, so document management dashboard. So again, multiple ways in. I can also create the card as I have down here, and as you can see for all the other products as well. But I like the quick action here. So from the card of huge, that's an employee in the system. I go via all the actions and I create new document. So from here, I am redirected directly to the application, and Huge Henderson, which is our demo guy today, is pre-selected as an employee. There are different sources we can pick from the OData. So we can pick from the onboardee point of view. So where we actually have a future hire, we can pick from active employees. That will be relevant if you change contract, needs an addendum, or any other HR relevant document. We can also source from requisitions and source data from the applicant, candidate, job offer, and source and send and source to the candidate, and then get it back into the archive. I select an employee here, and from my list of document types here, I have various types I can select. So I have a bilingual employment contract, I have NDAs, pay rewards, addendums, termination letters, onboarding letters, proof of employment, and test documents. When I select a document type, we have the possibility of enabling different languages. So here I have Danish and English to select. I also have the ability to select an effective date. So this will be as from today. This is the default, but if for any reason I'm creating an addendum with future dated data, I can select a point in the future. So from the 6th or the 1st of December, if Huge is changing his job location or job title or department or any kind of changed data, I can pick it up from that effective date. I'm going to go with today's date for this and create my work area. As you can see at the bottom down here, I also have the option to do a mass generation. That is if I select multiple employees at the same time, and then do a mass generation and a mass send out. I've created the work area that consists of a couple of document sections. I have the corporate header, a header, an introduction, where the work is, the description of it, the salary, and everything that goes into a contract. This is very company specific. So when we implement this solution, this logic is something we establish together. So you can build as many templates as you need, and you can build as much logic into it as you need. So you can see I selected an employment contract, that's the type, and this system automatically selects which variant of the document type that is relevant for Huge. So in this case, he is a white collar. That could be a field we have in EC. That selects he needs a white collar contract and that he is not eligible for car. That's why it selects the one without car, which you can see has an impact on the 0.5 salary. All these sections we have here are called text elements. They are presented in these small editors that allows us to edit or add stuff to the contract if needed. I also have the option to switch off sections if needed. We always try to make as much automated as possible, but sometimes it's a matter of the negotiation with the candidate or employee at the given time, that it's not necessarily a data point we have. But apart from that, we source the hire date, we source the salary, we source the weekly working hours, we source all kinds of data you need. So we can pick any data point needed from your employees. So that looks all nice and fine. So this resembles in a PDF. That is what ultimately goes to the candidate. And also this design of the templates, you have full control of how you want it to look. I go back to show you that I also have the option to add envelopes. So envelopes is basically bundles of attachments we can send. So here I have the possibility of sending an onboarding package or benefit statements or whatever the company needs to add. That can also be automized as well in the notification we send. I also have the options of selecting processes. So for this demo example, I don't have an approver configured, but I have the option to choose an alternative signer. In this case, I can choose from this list of people. I choose Monica Mikkelsen. She's a HR representative as designer. I can also select other or multiple signers and change the sequence if needed. If I don't select anyone, it will pick the standard signer, which can be any of your job relationships or managers or supervisors, or we can even, with the new release, also block that there are any standard and force the requester to select a person responsible here. When I continue here, I can preview what's going to happen now. So I drafted the document. Once I push the button, start processing, it's going to go for signing. It's going to go for signing to Chris and Huge afterwards. If I had an approval step before the signing, that would also been visualized here. Once the document is signed, it goes to the archive under the document type called contract. So if I'm all happy with the content and everything, I start the processing. And from there, it's going to connect to the Adobe Sign account that we have for our demo environment. And it's going to send an email from Adobe with the link to sign. So it's sent for signature now. This also means that I can track my request from the dashboard. So as you see, as you saw before, I can enter the dashboard. So here is all bells and whistles because I have an admin access. But up here, I can see that I have requested a signature. And this is my request. So it's been drafted, it's been sent for signature. And here I can go and check the sign state as a requester if I'm in a shared service center, if I'm a HRVP, or whomever sends the request from your company. So here we can see the audit trail of the signatures sent to the manager in this case at first. So this means, and now I'm sharing another screen, which is my demo email. So from here, I can see that the request has been sent to Monica. Chris, was it? Sorry. So I review and sign as Chris. And here opens. I am okay. This. So I agree to the fact that we can sign digitally. So you see, I am shown the PDF as we saw before. And here, Chris is asked to sign. Once he does that, it gets stamped with his name and date. I click to sign. And from there, it's going to go out to Huge as the employee or candidate. We can also choose to have a single signer concept where it's only the manager, only the employee. So it's fully configurable to your needs. I received the same email, but as Huge, but because it's demo, it arrives at the same inbox. I go down, I can see that my manager is happy with whatever was agreed. And I am also happy as the employee, so go ahead and sign. Gives a stamp, gives a name, and I click to sign. So if I go back to my dashboard here, I'll just give it a refresh. I can see that now it's been archived. So it has the status here, and it's completed this full flow. It's been drafted, it's been signed, and we've sent out a notification, and it's been archived. I can also check the sign state here, which means that I can check that it was the right emails, it was the right people that signed. If I had enabled the approval, I would have gone in here to see any approvals. I don't have any. I have one here where we can see how it looks like if that would have been sent to an approval beforehand. The person that was requested to approve, which was Marta, can go preview the document. She can approve or reject it. And then will flow a notification to the requester what happened to the document if needed. So from here, I can go into the archive and see what it actually looks like. But I can do as I did before. I could also go via Hugh Henderson. I could browse the document archive from here, and I will be led directly into his archive. So this opens the archive directly on Huge, as being the only one with this user ID. So he has 31 available documents. He has the foundation object data we have on him from EC. So he is in Department Sales Germany. He's in Division Direct Sales. And I can use the search bar here for searching any file names or metadata that we have on these documents piled up down here. The archive consists of categories. In this case, I have 6. So I have absence and leave, contracts, disciplinary actions, master data, mobility, termination, exits, which are overall terms for document types that I have. So if I select them all, I'm able to show you the 20 document types that I have within. This list is also configurable, so this is up to the different companies to decide how you like the structure, what's relevant for you, because that also holds some company-specific details and how you operate, for an example. If I choose to search for payroll, I'll go here, and I will only be shown the payroll documents. So every document has a naming structure. So it has the user ID, it has the document type, and it has the effective date stamp here, including the hour. That is also configurable if you want it written by letters or in any other way. We can also see that it was created by my initials, when it was created, and what was the effective date. Every document is also access controlled. So I'm able to view this. I'm able to move this into another document type if it was misplaced for any reason. I have the permission to download the document. I also have permission to delete it. I also have permission to share the link of the document, which if I share it can only be opened by those who also have permission to view it. And all these permissions are granted within the document management solution's own permission tool that is latched onto the RBP. So we source the grants and target groups of your company that gives the right people the right permissions to the right people. And we can also source from permission roles. We usually use that for employees and managers because we can use the generic relationship that they have so that managers can only see their direct reports and employees can only see themselves. And that is also why we have these different tabs up here. So we have the My Team tab, which is the manager access to employees. And since I don't have a team, I can see myself. But imagine that you have a team of 10 people, they will be shown here. The same as My Documents, it has a little bit of a different view because you search directly on the file names and metadata, but we are still able to source the categories and document types. And this is also the attributes that we use for permission control. So if we don't want employees to see short-term intensive performance letters or exit service, I don't know why, then we can exclude employees from seeing that. As a new feature from the release, we have also the document search. So as you can imagine, the employee search that my team had documents is based on the user, where we go through the user to the documents. But we now have a document browser where we search for documents rather than employees. So if I search for contracts here, I'll get 20 documents out of 20 that has a contract as any point of metadata here. That could be any search where I include any relevant metadata. I'm able to search for document types and categories as well, but we're also able to customize your search bar so that you can have divisions or countries or any other relevant topic where you can search within and do a more granular search of specific documents rather than employees. So this is a very nice feature of the new release. All right. So as part of the dashboard here, I also have an insight section. From here, I can see which document has expired. I can check document compliance, and I also have this received documents because I'm an admin. And this is where I can receive documents from payroll vendors or any other third party that I want to source documents to my archive. If I open this document compliance part here on the insights, which is only granted for HR admins, I am shown a list of missing documents. Missing documents is a document type within the archive. So for an example, contract that I have decided is a mandatory document. So every employee is obliged to have this document. Let's say that the European Commission decides that everyone needs to have a contract. I think it's fair to say that this is a mandatory document. But doing some compliance on it, we've created this missing document sections where we can source all those employees with user IDs that doesn't have a contract. So from there is just starting to create one for everyone who's missing. And I think because we're in a demo environment, I have a lot of employees not having a contract. I can search for the various document types that I want to do compliance on. And I can also exclude inactives because they are not as relevant to create a contract for because they're not in the system anymore. Another feature of the compliance tool is the missing acknowledgements. So here are 3, and this is the document type read and acknowledge. This is a feature that was developed in a previous release where we allow the employee to interact with the document. So as you can see, Hugh Henderson actually is missing one document to read and acknowledge. So let's go back to his archive as him. So if I log out, I want to proxy in as Hugh to see what it looks like. So these documents can be mass generated and sent out. So that could be changes to company policies that needs a read and acknowledge statement, or any other thing that you need consent from the employee that doesn't necessarily go through the signature provider because that holds the transaction cost too. Okay. Well, that doesn't seem to go well. There we go. Thank you. So let's go in again. So Hugh Henderson has this read and acknowledge. If we search for that, we can see, and I am logged in as a HR manager, so I can see that he has two, one that was already acknowledged and what day, and one that needs acknowledgement. So as you can see, this document has this label up here that is green tick marked because it's read and acknowledged already. This means that Huge already went in, read the document, and clicked on the tick mark to ensure that HR knows that he is okay with whatever has been agreed. We can also see here that Huge has these document. He can see the document's ID. He can see what document type we're looking at, when it was created, who it was, but also retention policy here. So because Huge is still active in the system, he doesn't hold a retention policy. This is usually something that kicks in whenever the employee is terminated. But I have a colleague here called Eddie, and he is inactive, which means he's been terminated. And therefore, we can see how the system interacts with SuccessFactors termination, and the documents that Eddie has in his archive will actually show his termination date, so when he was terminated, and which termination policy we put on or the system automatically pulls from. So that is a 5-year from termination date. We also have the option to select a creation date termination policy so that, for example, warnings are deleted 3 or 2 years after they're created. That's a company-specific policy, which means that they will be deleted after that given period of time. Right. So going to the admin part down here, I can see that because I am an admin, but if you log in as an employee, you'll only see my documents and the inboxes if anything is requested from you, so that will have a slightly simpler view. So the administration section down here is divided into documents, archives, the flows, objectives for the flows, and the user access and authorization. And then, of course, a migration log, because we also have a migration tool that we can use for migrating documents from your existing storage into the archive, so you have everything in one place. So the documents here, for an example, is the templates that you saw. So I have a demo portfolio here where I give the option to select the language, to select data from my system. And here you can see the document type list that I saw from the selector when generating a contract for Huge. So I have an employment contract here. And the one that Huge got was this white color with no car, because he is not eligible for car. So it has this filtering options that selects the right document type for the employee. We also associate the DLM, so the document lifecycle management flow, to the document types or variants, depending on what do they need. Do they need an approval? Do they need a signature? and from whom do they need notifications and attachments of any kind, and where should they be stored in the archive going forward. So this is where we configure everything. Usually we see that we're able to narrow down the variants and document types because we can use a lot of automation from the data we have in EC or from recruiting. So it's a very nice feature. And the same thing goes for the archive. That's where we configure the structure. This is where we configure the flows, so the approvals and signatures. And this is the role configuration where we set up who can see what on who and which document types can you generate, etc. Yeah. So one final thing, the metrics. The metrics is where we can do anonymized reporting on our documents. This is where we can see the amount of documents we've generated for our target population in a given month or a year. This is also where we can track our processes. So what flows have we gone through? How fast or how slow did it take us and the stakeholders to respond? And is there anything missing? It's also where we can see the archive. So let's see how many contracts we have created in country, United Kingdom, in a bar chart. So that is one document type for UK that has been created, or for Denmark. Let's see if it's different if I select UK. Okay, it doesn't allow me to. It wants Denmark. So one contract for Denmark has been created in this period of time. Again, it's a demo environment, so the data might not really reflect your reality out there. But at least we have the metrics possibility to do some reporting on the documents, the processes, and the archive. The monitoring of things on a daily operation basis will be done from in here, where we can monitor the document status on different requests we've done in all stages, and filter out and do actions on those that need the action. So I think that concludes the demo, John and Ottilie, unless there's something that I missed.
No, that's great, Anne. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Very, very insightful. Very interesting to see, I suppose, the process behind the document creation, and I suppose ultimately how you archive, and the fact that it's supported by analytics and metrics. As I mentioned at the beginning, I would encourage everyone, or if you have any questions, and we do have a few questions that we'll address now, to please submit them in the chat. But a really good question, and this one is from Michael. And Michael wants to know, and they are using, I know we've recommended Scribe as our partner for e-signature, and we have a strategic partnership with them, but Michael and the organization that he's working with are using an alternative email signature provider. Do we cater for others?
Yes, we do. So we actually are agnostic in terms of the integrations to signature providers such as Scribe, but could also be DocuSign or HelloSign or VismaSign. Could be bigger players, smaller players. We can develop adapters if there is signature providers we've never come across, but I would say we have it all more or less ready for integrations. Definitely. We also do the authorization. So, for an example, in Denmark, it's required in some cases that you sign with the MitID, which is some sort of bank ID or e-identification that gives you this two-factor verification that is actually you that signed the contract.
Great. Thanks for the question, Michael. Comprehensive answer. Anne, thank you so much. Another question, and this is from Ulrich, with a good question, and I suppose this relates to what we were talking about Denmark and so forth, but Ulrich works for a global organization. He's just querying localization in the sense, does the solution localize into other market units?
So in terms of localization, we usually see that the templates is what is the most local and country specific, and difference in the way that people hire and contract with people. And this is where we usually create a local portfolio for the countries where they can have their country specific contracts. And then we'll create a more global standard for addendums or change letters of any kind that could be shared across the countries.
Thanks, Ulrich, for the question. Another question, and this one is from Louise. Hi, Louise. Louise is just wondering, and again, we may have covered it, question around role-based permissions, and what does that look like with the solution?
Yeah, so we borrow the concept from SuccessFactors, the role-based permissions, where we set up grant groups. So that could be a global or local HR department, organizations, or named users that is allowed to generate documents and view documents. And then we also use the target group for whom they can generate and view documents for. Then in between, so the what basically, so what we have in role-based permissions, or in the permission role, sorry, in SuccessFactors, this is where we define in our application what document types, which portfolios, and if there are any specific features to that permission. So we borrow the concept, but then tweaks it with our application to fit the needs.
Great, thank you, Anne. I have two more questions. Another really good question, actually, just in regards to the data and the employee profile and so forth. Is all of that pulled from SAP SuccessFactors Employee Central? Is that correct? Fair to say?
That's fair to say. So we source through the OData API. So that basically allows us to source all user data, all person. For those of you that are SuccessFactors, it's called per person. Could also be employment or job relations, but also recruitment. So everything that relates to recruitment process, we can pick the data from through the OData.
Great. Another question, and this one is from, excuse me, this is from Stina. Thanks for the question, Stina. Stina doesn't use SuccessFactors, but they're using S/4HANA EC. Is a solution like this applicable to them also?
Yes, indeed.
Great. Straight to the point. Appreciate it. And one last question, and this one is from Jonas. Thanks for the question, Jonas. In regards to the metrics and reporting on, can you share them internally, I suppose, from a reporting perspective, and if so, in what format?
Yes, of course. So you can do extracts on PDF and PowerPoint for those that has the sort of graphic bars and pie charts into it, but you can also do extracts to CSV or Excel for more list info.
Great. Thank you so much to everyone who participated in this morning's session. Big shout out to Anne. I thought you did a great session. It's very knowledgeable and very well received, I think it's fair to say, by some of the feedback being provided. Thank you to Ottilia for organizing and facilitating. On another note, you may be aware that, Gavdi, PXMsoft, we typically try to run these educational sessions at least once a month. And I think no harm in saying, and I think there's a lot of interest around time tracking, but we will do a session on the 12th of December. It'll be our last webinar before 2025. Ottilia has kindly shared details with that. But on that note, I may hand it back to you, Anne, just for maybe the last words, and if you wouldn't mind.
Not at all. I think we actually have a slide where we have a little bit on the release, just to put a few final words on that. So what you've seen is obviously the platform as is, with a couple of new features that we just released. So here are 6 top picks, at least from that release. So we do 3 yearly releases. That is a former employee feature, which allows former employees to access the platform. That could be if you have any final payslips you need them to access. This is done via an external platform that allows secure access, obviously. We also developed a free text placeholder. That's for DocuSign. So that allows to insert a national ID or anything else, where we utilize a fixed placeholder for adding data on the signing process. And as you saw, the document browser is also a new feature where you browse documents, not employees, which allows you for a little bit more granular search across documents. We also disabled that you have a default approver and signer, and this gives you a lot of more flexibility in terms of designing a flow where you can lock the system, so that the requester is actually it's mandatory to select an alternative approver or signer. We also have the direct report restriction, as I mentioned. If we have a direct report relationship where we allow managers to see employees' documents, maybe a Portuguese manager is not allowed to watch Polish contracts, but is allowed to watch their Danish employees' documents and contracts, then we can do this restriction on the document basis in our application. And as a final thing, we can actually now preview mails and Word documents, and also coming soon, Excel and PDF, so we don't have to download them. So that's a pretty nice feature that also gives a higher compliance in terms of viewing documents and browsing through what you're looking for. So yeah, that's just to say that what you might have seen can change, and that is customer driven, of course. So all this input comes from our great customers that we engage with, and that could also be you.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, and I think it is important to be mindful of the fact that we continue to invest into these solutions, in the sense that typically we do at least a biannual release with new functionality and features, and we do continue to invest right across our portfolio solutions. I mean, the exciting one for me really is we're now looking at AI functionality for 2025. So yeah, stay tuned. And on that note, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Anne or Ottilia for any questions that we may have not answered, and I just saw one come through there quite late. We'll follow up with you individually. I'm conscious of everyone's time. And on that note, wishing everyone a really good day, and thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you on the next session. Bye now.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.